You may be aware that here in the United States, we have a less than ideal healthcare system. For instance, compared to our neighbors in the North, we enjoy slightly shorter wait times for certain procedures in exchange for worse coverage, higher cost, and poorer health outcomes. And to expand that picture a little bit, compared to Canada, as well as Australia, France, Germany, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK, the United States ranks last on access to care, administrative efficiency, equity, health outcomes, and overall healthcare performance. There are a number of reasons why this might be, but one of the most obvious is that here in the United States, our healthcare system is run by private for-profit corporations with no real option for single payer, despite the fact that every major poll shows that the majority of Americans think their government should guarantee health insurance for everyone. As an American, this is all pretty depressing, but what if I told you that it could actually get way worse? And it's in the process of getting way worse. Well, a new study published just this week in the Journal of the American Medical Association illustrates the way that a secondary player is managing to make our healthcare system even more dystopian than the pharmaceutical industry is managing on its own. And that secondary player is private equity firms. So first, let's talk about what a private equity firm is, because the name isn't terribly descriptive if you're not super into finance chat, which I'm not either. So I'm going to keep this simple. I'm only going to be talking about one type of private equity firm that engages in what's called leveraged buyouts. In the best of all possible worlds, when a company is having trouble either staying afloat or growing to meet their potential, and they need an influx of investment, a private equity firm comes in with the necessary cash to buy the company, fix it up, allow it to continue on in a healthy way or grow as needed, at which point the private equity firm sells the company or takes it public and gets a healthy profit out of it. So everybody wins. The problem, as it usually is capitalism and greed, because from the private equity firm's perspective, the company's continued existence or good health is not the true goal. That's a long-term goal. The only real goal is short-term profit, and those things are often at odds with one another. And in fact, as Emily Stewart pointed out in an article for Vox 4 years ago, one of the biggest issues is that no matter what happens to the company that is purchased, the private equity firm makes money, either from the fees they collect from their own investors just for handling this transaction, or from the fees they collect on any profit they return. One prominent example is what happened to Toys R Us, which was purchased by private equity firms like Bain Capital and KKR in 2005, and quickly loaded down with an additional $5 billion in debt, which forced the company to declare bankruptcy in 2017. Bain and KKR made off with at least $15 million each, while, all of the employees lost their jobs. As someone who grew up in the 1990s, it is completely bonkers to me that Toys R Us was so easily destroyed like that. That was our mecca. I would have sold my own mother's eyeballs just to get a chance to do one of those Nickelodeon toy runs through Toys R Us. This story should honestly turn most of Gen X and millennials into socialist terrorists. But it's not just toy stores that private equity firms have destroyed. Over on Vox, Stewart pointed out a seemingly funny story in which California Representative Katie Porter, an outspoken critic of the tactics employed by private equity firms, received at her home a mailer telling her voters to tell Porter to vote against legislation that would stop companies from sending patients hefty surprise bills after they visit the emergency room or other medical care. Why would a group called Doctor-Patient Unity want to stop legislation that would benefit patients? Because it was a front for two private equity firms that owned doctor staffing companies. Blackstone and KKR spent nearly $60 million on that campaign while simultaneously gutting the salaries of their medical professional employees. That's right. KKR, the same company that skull-fucked Jeffrey the giraffe, is now also in charge of our healthcare. For a variety of reasons, for-profit hospitals figured out a while back that they would benefit from outsourcing the employment of their doctors, and private equity firms seized on that to take control of a valuable market. They'd already dipped their toes previously into this area by buying up dental practices, optometrists, and nursing homes. A study from February of 2023 found that private equity-owned nursing homes saw an 11% increase in mortality compared to other nursing homes due to declines in measures of patient well-being, nurse staffing, and compliance with care standards. So it's not exactly surprising what this most recent study found. Private equity firms are absolutely hazardous to the health of the patients at the hospitals they buy. A team of researchers examined Medicare claims for 662,095 patients at 51 different hospitals owned by private equity firms and compared the outcomes to those of more than 4 million hospitalizations at 259 hospitals that were not owned by private equity firms. The results were astounding. Patients at private equity firm hospitals experienced a 25.4% increase in hospital-acquired conditions, including a 27% increase in falls, a 38% increase in central line infections, despite performing 16% fewer percutaneous central lines, and a 100% increase in surgical site infections, despite the fact that the private equity hospitals performed 8% fewer surgeries after acquisition. And all of this despite those private equity hospitals treating younger and therefore presumably healthier patients. As I said, knowing what we already know about how private equity firms have treated companies in other industries, this study did not return a surprising result, but it should be a wake-up call to Americans that not only are we still fighting against the pharmaceutical industry when trying to fix our healthcare system and provide universal coverage to everyone, but we're also facing an even greater threat that is further endangering lives as it continues to gobble up our medical institutions and turn them into money printing machines. The good news is that politicians like Katie Porter are fighting these companies tooth and nail. She did not, in fact, vote against that law that would stop hospitals from sending patients surprise bills, but not every politician is perfect. So even if you're lucky enough to have a progressive representative, you should still continue to bully them about this issue. There is currently legislation introduced by U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley and Washington Representative Adam Smith that would stop private equity firms from buying up single-family homes, which is a hugely important issue that I didn't even have time to get into here. So please let your representatives know that that legislation is a great first step, and the next step should maybe focus on stopping private equity from interfering with our healthcare. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.